I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks for joining us tonight. And believe it or not, we're less than a week away from gavel-to-gavel coverage of a trial. It won't be in a courtroom. It'll be in the Senate, the second impeachment trial of Donald Trump. And of course, we will be there for every moment. Both sides have now filed their paperwork in the case. And the paperwork reveals a timeline of events, a timeline of allegations in this case. Michael Ayala has a look at what happened and when it happened.
On the morning Congress gathers to certify the votes from the presidential election, President Trump tweets the baseless accusation that the votes are based on irregularities and fraud. He makes the false assertion that all Vice President Pence has to do is send them back to the states. Around 11 a.m., thousands of Trump supporters gather to hear him speak.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
At noon, President Trump begins his speech, repeating a litany of lies about the results of the presidential election.
They rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before.
He urges the crowd.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
At about 1:11 p.m., President Trump finishes his remarks.
So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you.
After Trump's speech, the crowd marches toward the U.S. Capitol. At about 1:30, they rush the barricades, overpower Capitol Police, and clamber up the steps. Capitol Police send an alert. The buildings are on lockdown, and the House and Senate go into recess. 5 minutes later, the mob reaches the Capitol, breaking a window and climbing inside. At 2:24 p.m., President Trump tweets, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country. At 2:38 p.m., another tweet. Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. Stay peaceful. Inside the Capitol, pandemonium. Trump supporter and Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt is shot and killed trying to force her way into the House chamber. At 3:13 p.m., Trump tweets, asking for everyone to remain peaceful. Minutes later, the president's press secretary tweets, the National Guard is on the way.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us.
At 4:17, the president posts this video on social media.
We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special.
At 6:14 p.m., Capitol Police and National Guard troops set up a perimeter on the west side of the Capitol. At 7 p.m., Facebook removes the president's video, and Twitter removes his tweets, shutting down his account for 12 hours. Finally, at 8 p.m., nearly 7 hours after the storming of the Capitol, police declare the Capitol building secure.
Let's get back to work.
At 8:06 p.m., Congress reconvenes to begin the work that was interrupted by the mob, certifying the electoral votes, finalizing Joe Biden's win as the 46th president of the United States.
And Court TV anchor Michael Ayala is with us right now. So, Michael, what arguments are both sides planning to make at this trial?
All right, Vinny. Well, House managers, they filed an 80-page brief laying out the entire responsibility for the riots on January 6th at the feet of the former president, Donald Trump. Now, Trump's defense team, later that day, they filed a 14-page reply, which did face some ridicule, Vinny, as it was riddled with spelling errors, including misspelling United States on the title page, so not a good look there. But the foundation of the House managers' arguments is that impeachment is for this very type of behavior, for a president who doesn't want to leave office and is willing to go to any length to keep it. And they lay out a detailed timeline, not like much different from the piece we just saw, but they go all the way back to July of 2020 when Trump first began hinting that he would not accept election results. And then they walked the senators through month after month, highlighting tweets and quotes, building up the outrage and paranoia of his supporters. And the alleged talk of violence was building on websites that Trump's personnel were aware of. Then they go on in great detail the words of that day at the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, like we saw. They also talk about the aftermath, that there was a dereliction of his duty and how it takes him hours to finally call for the rioter to stop, and then still shows no remorse and is still talking and making some of the same lies that he'd been saying all along. Well, the legal arguments, Vinny, they break down like this. The House managers argue that impeachment is constitutional, and they cite the fact that the Section 1, Article 1, Section 3, is based on an English law that allowed for the impeachment of people out of office. And they said if the framers wanted something different, they would have said so. They say he violated the oath of office to protect the Constitution. He attacked the democratic process by telling lies about the election. And also, they claim that he imperiled legislative bodies. And also, all of this put together amounts to high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, the Trump defense team of Bruce Castor and David Schoen, they make the following arguments. They claim that impeachment is unconstitutional. They say by the words of Article 1, Section 3 itself, it says senators have the power to remove a president. Obviously, if a president isn't in office, he can't be removed. They have no jurisdiction over a private citizen. They say the speech that he made and all the words he said were protected by the First Amendment. They say he faithfully carried out his oath and all his duties and that he was just challenging an election like Democrats and Republicans have done many, many times, and that there's not enough evidence to show that what he was saying is not true. Not that he has evidence of what he was saying is true, is that there's not enough evidence to show that what he was saying is not true. They also say he did not incite the insurrection, that seditionists acted on their own. They're currently being prosecuted, and that's the way it should be. And therefore, he is not guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. Now, I wanted to get a sense of the relative strength and weaknesses of the arguments, so I checked in with Michael Sterling, who has been both a federal prosecutor and a defense attorney. And while he feels that the House manager's case is strong, he says that it's going to take witness testimony to have the kind of impact that will drive senators to vote against party lines. Take a listen.
The impact that the president's words had on witnesses, the impact that the president's orders had on the response to the insurrection at the Capitol will be critical. And any good trial lawyer knows that the more you can connect the experience to the juror, the more likely it is you are to get some empathy, to get some compassion, for them to see the humanity. And in this case, you will have an emotional trial. I think that what you will see is the trial lawyers, in this case, the House managers, try to really appeal to the sensibilities and emotions by reminding the United States senators who are listening, especially those who may not want to, who may want to side with their party. We'll try to make that a connection with them and just remind them of just how serious this was. You literally had someone try to stop the peaceful transfer of power. You had a mob try to do that, and they're going to make tie that directly to the president's actions.
Vinny, he went on to say that impeachment is probably the most important job the Senate has, and that he's hoping that, in fact, they're able to get beyond partisan politics.
Okay, and we'll see. And I guess he's both ways, right? So one side will be listening to the other side's argument, and the other side will be listening, because we kind of know the way they're looking at it right now. Yeah. All right, it's a trial. Witnesses. Will we actually have testimony? Because most of the trials we cover here at Court TV, there are witnesses, and that's kind of where evidence comes from. So we're going to have that here.
Well, Vinny, the issue is still a bit undecided. Neither brief specifically asked for witnesses, and the senators are still negotiating the rules for the proceeding. Some Democrats have called for witnesses because they want all the information out there. Others are looking to keep this proceeding short, and they don't want to call witnesses since many of the jurors were victims and know all about what happened. Now, Senator Lindsey Graham warned that if witnesses are called, they could drag this thing out through April or beyond because of discovery and things of that nature that go along with the trial. And this trial could end up defining President Biden's first 100 days in office, something Democrats do not want.
All right, apparently one of the attorneys for one of the defendants charged in the federal case is offering up his client to testify?
Yeah, Jacob Chansley, better known as the QAnon shaman, he's offered up his testimony. Now, he's the guy that we saw with horns on, the American flag, a spear, and a megaphone, and really not much else, right? He was shirtless, had some tattoos. He's facing federal charges for his role in the riot. Now, according to his attorney, Albert Watkins, he would be willing to testify that he was acting on the words of the president. Now, we interviewed Watkins, and here is some of what he had to say.
He doesn't want to overthrow the government. Remember, he was endeared by the president. He heard the words of the president over 4+ years. The president made him feel like his voice was being heard. And Mr. Chansley was not the only one in this country that felt that way. These are people who never before had a voice in or role in anything political. My client listened to the words and believed the words of the president. On January 6th, my client believed he had been called at the special instance and request of the president to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue with the president and everyone else to the Capitol to save our nation. He has to own up to the reality that he played a role in being susceptible, being vulnerable to the words of a man who is incapable of speaking in a complete sentence, our president.
So interesting stuff there, Vinny. Now, Watkins did admit that this argument that he acted on Trump's words don't really absolve him of guilt, but could help him in sentencing by reducing his culpability.
By flipping on the president in the impeachment trial. That's interesting because two different jurisdictions. One has nothing to do with the other, right? One's criminal, it's fascinating, right?
It is.
Will he wear the horns if he testifies?
I'm not sure about that, Vinny, but what he's saying essentially is that, if he can somehow shovel off some of this culpability to the president saying, hey, I was just acting on behalf of the president, maybe a judge will take it easy on him in sentencing.
Right. Yeah, and you got to do anything you can, right?
Absolutely.
To save your own skin. Get it? He's got no shirt on. Are any lawmakers going to testify? Because you look at them, the senators are jurors, but they're lawmakers. You have members of the House as well. Mm-hmm. Anyone going to testify?
There's a chance we could hear from representatives. Again, they have not decided on this yet. Now, you wouldn't hear from all of them, but maybe just those who came under specific attack or who were specifically targeted by the rioters, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Now, she provided a glimpse, Vinny, of what her testimony might sound like in a 90-minute emotional video that she posted on her Instagram account. Let's listen to some of what she had to say. Very emotional stuff.
I hear these huge, violent bangs on my door and then every door going into my office. And then I just start to hear these yells of, where is she? Where is she? And I just thought to myself, they got inside. And so I hide behind my door like this, like I'm here, and the bathroom door starts going like this, like the bathroom door is behind me, or rather in front of me, and I'm like this, and the door hinges right here, and I just hear, where is she? Where is she? And this was the moment where I thought everything was over. And so I go down and I thought I was going to die.
Now, Vinny, she goes on to reveal something very personal that she says added to the terror of that day. Listen again.
The reason I say this and the reason I'm getting emotional in this moment is because these folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what's happened, or even telling us to apologize, these are the same tactics of abusers. And I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And I haven't told many people that in my life. But when we go through trauma, trauma compounds on each other.
Imagine that kind of testimony on the floor. So again, we don't know if we'll see that type of testimony. The defense team, for their part, and Lindsey Graham have threatened to call FBI agents who would testify that there were already plans for the attack that had nothing to do with the president. They even plan to call Democratic representatives to get them to reveal their dislike and bias for Trump. So it sounds like things clearly could get wild, Vinny. We'll have to wait and see.
Very unpredictable.
Yes.
And especially since you don't have any rules. So amazing. Michael Ayala on top of it every night. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.